And we're back, everybody. Just one day from yesterday, because today's Friday, February 21, 2025, K-Pro, 2025, because I listened. So we had a nice little interview with Dave Colona of the American Treasure podcast, which we premiered this morning, and I think we're going to talk about that today. What else are we talking about, K-Pro?
Yeah, and just for the record, I had to go through some old videos for this upcoming awesome PowerPoint I'm doing on Monday. And Mike always says the date at the beginning, but he doesn't say the year. And now that, Mike, you're on year 8 of vlogging. So the years get mixed up sometimes. So it's good to put that date down there. So full date with year.
Doing it for 8 years.
Doing this in 2042. That's the year Jens's doc's going to come out, honey. Sorry.
Or Netflix, one or the other. Kiwi says, when's that Netflix? We don't know, Kiwi. That's the problem.
What do you mean?
I've heard nothing official. I've heard rumor mill and gossip.
Oh, so you're saying Lou B's a liar?
But no, it just hasn't happened yet. That's all. Got to wait till Tuesday and see.
We believe that Tuesdays there's an announcement. So because it looks like it's happening potentially more than just rumor mill, in my opinion, we are going to do a show to catch everyone up, because a lot of people are like, Netflix, what do you mean? Who's in it? What's happening? We'll catch everybody up to who the 4 kind of main characters are, of course, Forrest Fenn as well. So the 5, what it's about, when it's going to release, how it's going to be released, limited, blah, 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 blah. And then when it comes out, of course, we're just getting a press release next week, is what we're hearing potentially. So tonight...
When you say a press release, where's that posted at? Like the newspapers have to, like, I never see a Netflix thing where is that like posted? What's the press release going to be?
So typically
it's not a video from Netflix or anything.
Yeah, no. Typically it goes to the PR Newswire, and then there will also be a distribution list of all the major like TV guides and all of that. You know, TV guides still around electronically. I didn't know that. Yeah. So and then that gives the opportunity for the press to go and, ask Ben Wallace has already introduced it on his website. There's already a release. He's got the name of it. He was allowed to say everything. So they'll probably, we're going to do a little party when it comes out, because it'll probably drop around 9:00 West Coast time. And I'm watching it all the way through when it drops. It's supposed to drop sometime late March, early April, but that's not for tonight. Let's get through what we're doing tonight, and then we can talk about all that other stuff like Netflix. You're going to see Mr. Cowlazars in Netflix, we believe.
We'll see. We'll believe it when it happens. Only thing that's certain is death and taxes. Isn't that what they say? All right.
Schultz.
Because of my day, I can tell you that's exactly true.
Yeah, all right. How about news from Shiloh? Well, I don't think there's been news from Shiloh for a couple of years now. I mean, not like news. You know what I mean? Nothing that's... I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask somebody else on that one. Well, I think whatever plan he had, maybe
we're going to have fun and answers. It's going to be epic, and he says we are going to love Netflix. Shiloh, the family, has said we are going to love Netflix. That was his words.
I think he said we're going to love Netflix. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Hopefully everybody loves Netflix. I mean, hopefully it is what it is. I hope it's not stupid. I hope we're not just kind of watching it like they could have did so much better here or there. I
have a prediction that we're going to have a mic drop moment, and I will give you my guess on Monday.
Oh, is that what the PowerPoint's about? What you think is in Netflix?
No. So I'll say it again, because I just said it about 30 seconds ago. I'm going to go over for the people that are brand new. They don't know who Chris Hurst is. They don't know who Cynthia is. They don't know who Lou B is. They don't know how interesting they are in the plot line and the storyline and what's, they don't know that stuff.
Okay, I got you. Well, that's why I put up the background in honor of Forrest Fenn and this big announcement on Tuesday. So there we go. All right, but tonight...
Monday, so Treasure Hound just asked, when is it happening? Tuesday. So we're going to go on live Monday, catch everyone up. Right. To what the details that we think we know. It's not exactly official, and then when the press release hits, we will go live the next day and tell everybody about it.
PowerPoint on Monday, everybody.
Yeah,
Cowlazars. My cousin was on Netflix and his brother was on HBO. That was the name of their horses. What? My cousin, is this a riddle? My cousin was on Netflix. His brother was on HBO. I don't get it, 3D Bronze. But is that true, or are you making a joke? I don't understand what you're saying. That was the name of their horse.
No, I don't have a PowerPoint for tonight. Okay, so here's what happened. For those of you that did not know what we were talking about earlier, we met with D Money, who is Dave from American Treasure Podcast. For you Fen searchers, he is the Dale to John. So he has gotten at least 40 hours of footage. He's cutting it up, spicing it up, editing, doing all that work, and he has 3.5, so really 4 episodes out right now. And so he contacted Mike long ago, and they've been, chatting for, almost 9 months now of here's what I'm doing. I filmed him, and he's starting to roll these out. Well, we decided to do a Q&A with him because some people are like, is this official? Not. John said early on, I'm dropping the boxes and you're never going to hear from me again. Well, you're going to hear, sorry, he changed his mind. We're going to hear a lot from John. It sounds like he has a lot of things in mind. So there is a Q&A coming out that Dave just did with John in the last week about questions that we had on our Discord. We submitted a bunch of Dave. We knew he was filming the next day, so we put a lot of questions up. He seemed to get a lot of answers. We thought that there was some pretty interesting stuff. So if you want to see it without our commentary,
go ahead.
If you want to see it without our commentary, you can go to today non-live. It just says videos, and that is there. We thought we would go through it and pause it at spots that we think would be interesting to discuss.
All right. Sorry, 3D Bronze. I'm a little tired. I just got home from work, everybody. So I'm a little out.
Oh, come on, Mike. He's tired and grumpy. You know what he came in and said? I'm going to tell everybody. Where's my dinner? Why isn't it on the
table when I get home?
He said it. And he said it seriously. And I looked at him and said, who is Grumpy Pants? He's a little grumpy, guys. So
K-Pro just cooked dinner literally in 12 minutes. I was like, oh, wow. I thought it would take a while. But anyway.
And I went upstairs and said, there's your dinner, my friend, and walked right upstairs.
All right. Yeah, hangry. I guess that's a good way to put it. No, just tired, actually. All right, so this is the interview that we did with D Money. He was on the show. We premiered it today at noon, but I think a lot of people were busy. It's Friday. It's not our normal time. So we're going to show it, and then we're going to talk about it. All right? We're going to do both. All right. We ready?
Yes.
Pro?
Uh-oh. You froze up on me. Am I frozen up on you?
Am I froze up?
Okay. Yeah, this happened actually during D Money's.
Actually, I need to do an NVIDIA GeForce card update, so I hope that doesn't affect things. I've been working all week. I haven't been on the computer. Like my life is totally different now. All right. Anyway. Actually, Doug, I've always wanted to go. The Area 51 gate and Rachel, the little alien. I've always wanted to go there. I just never have. It'll be in Vegas.
Yeah.
Coming into Vegas for the March Madness or what? It's about, what is it, a 3-hour drive from here? So me and Greg all thought of doing one time, but we didn't do it. So, okay. All right. Anyway, this is our interview. We hope you like it. There are some interesting things here, guys. So pay attention.
So, again, what we're going to do is say stop. So if you want to see it without us saying stop, go to the video from noon today. This one, we're going to say stop, and then we're going to weigh in on what's being discussed. So, Mike, you stop it when you hear something interesting. I think you and I have some agreement on some of those things.
All right, everybody. We've got breaking news from the American Treasure Podcast. Dave Colona is here to answer all your burning questions. Thanks for coming on, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm going to call him D Money because that is what his Discord name is.
That's true.
D Money.
I've noticed there's a couple other D Moneys on there now. So
that's stop it real quick, Mike.
Imposters.
Yeah.
So make sure if you are messaging D Money that you have the right D Money on our Discord. It's like D Money and there's a number behind it. So make sure you have the right one if you are sending him that information.
On our Discord, Cowlazars Grand Adventure. The link is down below. And if you watched our Legend Has It video Thursday, there's $3,000 up for grabs. Jump on our Discord. I need to check that out this weekend and start talking to people on Discord.
Yeah, right, some people are. Yeah. Okay.
I'm positive.
Oh, no.
It's fine. Yeah.
All right. So the American Treasure podcast. I guess start from the beginning. What gave you the idea? Like, how long have you thought about doing it, and then you finally followed through?
Well, John came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to do. I'm doing a treasure hunt. Like, do you want to do a podcast?"
Now, how long ago was this? What year would you say? Is this way back?
This is way back. It was definitely during the pandemic. I got to figure out exactly the first time we talked about it. It was after the treasure was after Forrest was found.
What year was Forrest Fenn's treasure found, K-Pro?
2019? Well, it was discovered in September of 2019, but it was found in June of 2020 when the pandemic opened back up.
Yeah, it was over.
And then he's saying 2021. So it is a little off, but we did catch him off guard with the question. But here's the thing I think is interesting. John came to him in 2021 wanting to start a podcast for a treasure hunt that he said he was going to walk away from and never say anything because Forrest needed all the attention and wanted to do stuff, but he never wanted to do that. And I know D-Money says at the end, like, yeah, he changed his mind. We knew it wasn't true. He's going to want to like be involved in it and be like doing stuff. And so I just thought it was interesting because if you go with what he says, why would he be starting a podcast that he would be in 2021 if he knew he would never be a part of kind of the community? So anyway.
So 4 years ago, basically, I mean, that's pretty cool. The way back then, John was like, I'm going to do a treasure hunt. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so it had to be before.
I rattled it around in his head for a couple of years, I think. I again, I don't want to speak for John, but I think it was like maybe 2021 or 2022. He was like, I'm going to start a treasure hunt. And he was like, do you want to do a podcast? And, you know.
So it was his idea.
It was his idea. It was totally his idea.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. It was his idea. And like.
The podcast, I mean, not the treasure hunt, obviously.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's new information. Not huge, but new information.
I
thought he told him about it and he had the idea, but no, I think JCB's planned out a lot of things we were giving him credit for.
Because I was like, do you have a budget to do this? And he was like, no, there's no budget. And I was like, so I'm going to be doing this on my time? And I was like, I don't know about that. So then I like rattled it around for a while and I was like, well, I could kind of like, you know, like I do a lot of other podcasts. I don't know, maybe you guys can see my other podcast, but I'll put up links to all the other ones. But
so just to be clear, and the link for the show, we have this video and a standalone video. It was premiered this morning. You can look it up, and his links to his other podcasts are in the description if you want to check them out, along with the link to the American Treasure podcast with JCB.
I was like, I could probably get into the idea of a treasure hunt. I've never really been a treasure hunter before. Like I was, you know, John said he was going to look for the Forrest Fenn, and that kind of like sparked my interest a little bit. And I was like, I could do a deep dive into treasure. Yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, you know, whatever comes of it, comes of it. And so I was like, I can explore other treasure ideas. Like that was kind of like my impotence to do it. I was like, I could get into like, you know, the one that really kind of like sparked my interest was another one up in the Catskills, the Dutch Schultz treasure. I don't know if you guys know.
It's like a legend, more like a legend.
Yeah, the legend of Dutch Schultz. And I was like, oh, that's like in my backyard, and I could go check that out. So, you know, that kind of like sparked my interest in being like, well, I could go on a treasure.
Sorry.
That could be kind of cool.
Right.
And then, you know, John came out with his, and I haven't gone looking yet, but probably will sooner or later.
When he first said, hey, I'm going to do a treasure hunt, were you like, sure, you're going to do it? It's the kind of guy, if he says it, he's going to do it. If I mute, you can't hear it, right, K-Pro?
Right.
All right.
Yeah, when he was like, all right, I'm doing this, I was like, all right, John doesn't really like say something and then not follow through. Like he's not like a guy like me who's pretty lazy and, you know, and like thinks of a billion ideas and never really follows through with any of them. He really does. And that's kind of like the wild thing about John is that like when he says he's going to do something, he does it.
Obviously, he does it. Okay, bro, do you know the answer to this? Do you know if JCB was a member of the Fen Discord back in the day? We know he was because of the pickle jar comment. What was his username? Do you remember what his username
That's where
was?
we got JCB from. I think it was JCB 2000. He was actually supposedly under 2, but I think it was JCB 2000, I think was the name, but he's under a different name now.
He's under a different name now. Okay.
He really does. So, and he's pretty true to his word. I will say that to your listeners. Like, if he says something, it's usually like he's pretty true.
He came through with this in a very big way, so yeah, I can understand that. Now, how long did you know him before he approached you with the treasury idea?
That's another good question. It was probably 2015 or 2014. Okay. He's good friends with a friend of mine who I lived with. I went to high school with. I've known since I was like 12. And he moved out to LA, and his girlfriend was friends with his girlfriend, and then they started hanging out. And then he was into music video, like doing music videos. So my friend directed a bunch of his music videos, and then eventually I went out and visited him, and then I got to hang out with him, and I got to know him. So like, I've never lived in the same city as him, but like when I go to LA or he comes to New York, we hang out.
So you're in New York, okay?
I am in New York, yeah, and he's in LA.
So you're probably by the Appalachian Trail box. All right.
Probably pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you might, the app box might be interesting. Okay, so just kind of to wrap up the how you know John piece.
Sure. Have
you ever been to one of these weekend events that he does where he makes puzzles and escape rooms and all of that? Have you been to one of those?
I have been invited to many, and I haven't gone down.
Hang on. That's one of those. Now, do you wish you would have went or no?
I mean,
misclick on the soundboard.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I would have to get on a plane and go to LA.
He did say, okay, a couple things. There were a couple of other usernames. It wasn't for me to say. They are in chat if you're wondering about John's other usernames, supposedly, hypothetically. But it was funny when I said, did you go to any of these weekend things? He's like, yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons. That's the first thing he said was Dungeons and Dragons, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is the weekend, I think, that he does more than anything else. That would be my guess, gaming, Dungeons and Dragons. But
yeah.
There's the link to the video, the actual unedited, it is unedited, by the way. It's the video, just the video, not our commentary. All right. That's true. You're in New York. Yeah, no wonder. Okay.
It's like, it's kind of, it would be a big to do. Like he invited me to the last one. He was doing a game night with a bunch of his friends. And I was like, that's kind of a haul to like, go for a weekend to play some Dungeons and Dragons or whatever he was playing. Yeah. But if I'm out there one day, I will. But I did, one thing was cool when I went to his wedding. He had it at his house, and he showed us his game room, and his game room is like, he's got this custom table and
nice,
and it's a nice setup he's got. So if I do go, it looks like it would be a good time.
Nice. That's
okay.
Cool.
So let's get into the podcast portion, because for the Forest Fen treasure hunters, you're Dale, basically a friend of the originator. You have some direct stuff from him that really nobody else does on a consistent basis, like maybe a one-off interview here and there. Right. So what is your goal? Like, if you think about, you're on episode 3.5, what's your goal overarching? Are you looking at doing hundreds of these? How much do you have of John? What's kind of your structure, or what's your thought?
Yeah, I question that myself. I'm not really sure. I would like to I think the idea, someone asked me that online, and I said something. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I was like, I would like to put out an episode like per box, like talk to John per box.
Great.
And then, maybe do a couple of question and answers episodes, and then maybe a couple of not sure, maybe just kind of hanging out with John and getting an idea of how he feels and all that stuff. But I don't know exactly how many I'll do. And then I started recording with him in, I think, 2020. something like that. Maybe the end of 2021. I can't remember exactly. Again, these are all things that I should go back and.
It's like 3 years ago. So yeah, his podcast just got more interesting after we learned this info. For me, anyway.
Well, yeah, and I think the interesting thing too is he's getting ready to say he has about at least 40 hours, and he's talking about at least one per box. I'm thinking he has enough for like the next 10 years. Like, I'm hoping it's not just 4 or 5 more. I think he could have some really interesting stuff. I'm not sure if he realizes, like, because he says later, I don't know if anybody would even want to hear the unedited. It's like, oh my gosh, we want to know everything, the inflection in the voice, just to get to know him a little bit. I think there's a lot of people that'd be really interesting.
I want to see what that game room looks like. All right.
And because everyone's always asking me, and I'm like, I don't know, and I have to go look at all my recordings. But I do have tons and tons of recordings, because at the beginning we were doing one every couple months, and it's very funny because we would do a recording, and he wasn't very much further along than he was, because he was like kind of like mulling it over. So I would be like, well, what are you thinking? And like all that stuff. So the early stuff is probably a lot more like hanging out, talking about treasure, and like he was doing a lot of bidding on stuff. So like we talked about that. So like I don't know exactly what I have to go back and listen
mute
to
it for a second.
Someone.
So not only does he have John, when he had taken some of the boxes but not the others and put them in their place, he also has during the auctions of getting some of the items. So that's well before that. So it's interesting to me. One of the episodes so far says, yeah, I've put this one in its place and I'm getting ready to do this one. I don't remember which one's which. So it's kind of interesting.
Someone asked me, I think online, and I think my idea was at some point, I think Capro did like it or love it or say something about it, but I was like, if there was an interest, like I could put them out in full, like I'll put them out in full, right? And maybe I'll put them up on like some Patreon so I can get a couple bucks for it. But I'm not here to make money. But it would be nice to get some money back at it. But whatever, I'm not really interested in money.
Right.
But
okay, stop for a second.
The idea that like,
so I'm going to take back what I said. It is okay that if he puts it under a Patreon wall, but he isn't sure if people would be interested. We found out from, so the professional way to do it, you're never going to see the raw footage of like that Jens has, or let's say a documentarian that like Netflix. You're not going to see all the raw footage. You're going to see the cuts and pieces to make it a smooth product. But they have cutting room floor footage, like Playboy did give to a searcher who then did put out, I think under a paywall, that additional little bits and pieces so we get the full context. I think that would be great. I would be interested. If you guys are interested, on our Discord, D-Money watches his American Podcast sub-channel, tell him. I think it'd be fabulous to put it under anywhere. But I would love to see the unedited, because even all the hums and hymns, which you have to take out, but the whole thing would be nice. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, if he put it up, however he puts it up, whether he wants to get paid or not, it's fine. He's put his time and effort into doing all this. And like he said, he got no money from JCB. There's no budget, which I thought was funny. So yeah, he should do something like that.
Some people have commented to that. Yeah.
I was going to say something. I don't remember what it is. All right. Let's continue on. Oh, there's a good one from Sam. I'd like to know if D Money ever spoke or interviewed anybody of John's team. Remember the 5 researchers and all that? That's a good question. I didn't ask him that one, Sam. That's a good one. So yeah, we'll see.
If I put these out, it would be for a select few that really, really want to listen to it, because I don't know if anybody wants to listen through all of that. That's a lot to listen through. But they
will. The dedicated will listen to every single second.
Yeah. Well, look how Jack found the Forrest Fenn treasure. He said it was a slip up in an interview, and so and like your 3.5 video when you put all of it out there, John says, and I think it's an accident, I received the unsealed jar, and I think it was just a mistake. But we've got some Scooby-Dooers in there that will just sleuth and find any little tiny.
I was trying to think about what he said, and I believe, I don't know if it's true, and I'm not John. I said this over and over again. I'm not John, but from my interpretation, I'm pretty sure he said that Jack did not open it up.
Right.
And that's what we thought. He said unsealed in an interview. Just so you guys know, K-Pro mentioned a Playboy interview. That was Forrest Fenn. He did an interview with a Playboy with people, Germany Playboy or something. So that's the uncut footage she was talking about. Okay, let's continue. But
Yeah.
When it was sold with provenance saying it had not been
broken up. So
you were saying that JCB said unsealed somewhere in an interview?
So in the 3.5, actually, Julie is the one that I got to give her credit. And I went back and listened to it. John talks about it being sealed. And then he says, when I got the unsealed jar, and then talks about it being sealed again. And I think it was just a slip of the tongue. So, but it was there. I went and re-listened to it. She's a smarty pants.
I got you. That's a good catch. Julie, you said?
Yes.
All right. Good catch, Julie. I guess we'll keep you as moderator. What I would assume John was referring to was the jar when he unsealed it, like the unsealed jar because he opened it. But that's just a guess on my part. Maybe that's what he meant.
And everything else John said was that he received it. Well, we know a documentarian actually was there filming him when he popped it open for the very first time.
Yeah.
Now, do you know what's in it? Do you know? You tried to get John to say it.
I did.
Is there more to that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I could say.
Okay, stop right there.
I will.
He knows something. This is huge for the Forrest Fenn people that have waited 5 years
for this. His face. Yeah, he knows something. All right.
You know what? Put it under a Patreon wall. The answer to that question, where you have to drink truth serum, and I will pay for it. D Money.
Don't know what I can say. Well, then that means you know some private.
Look at my face right there. Look at your face. We need to know. Bring happiness and joy to the world.
Peace. He knows.
Rewind it. Say it.
I did.
Is there more to that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I could say.
So you do have some info.
I will say the only info that I have is that after that episode aired and everybody went a buzz, I called him up and I was like, "Are you hearing this?" Or or everyone's talking about it, and he's like, he said something to the effect of like, "Oh, I don't even remember what I said. I don't remember what was in there," or something. I don't remember. Yeah, I was like, "So is it not a big?"
Okay, no,
it was, but I don't remember what I said. So it was kind of, I think of it maybe a slip that he didn't think that it would be a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It is, yeah. For the Forrest Fenn people, it really is. So
now you have recently done a Q&A with him, correct? So for him to say that John said he knows it's not a big deal what's in the jar, there's a miscommunication somewhere. He knows him calling it the pickle jar. There's memes everywhere, etc. He knows what Shiloh has said. Don't buy it, anyone. There's nothing in there. And the family has said that. And now John has said something opposite. I call baloney, whether it's intentional baloney or not. But for John to say, I don't even know if it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, and that's why we want to know. And so if it's not a big deal, share it with us.
And yes, John did say in the 3.5 podcast, American Treasure podcast, there were some objects in the pickle jar, in the olive jar. Yeah. What does objects mean? I mean, we know is it supposed to be hair clippings, hair sample for a set he put in there for
hair
DNA?
And toenails, I think.
He said toenails? I thought it was just hair, but okay. So
it's hair and toenails, because he said hair could not have a certain follicle or something. Yeah, that's what some people say. Now, I haven't seen the opened one, but I saw the unopened one at Heritage. I was one of the influencers invited to go. And all it looked like was a rounded up with that's all that was there, and paper. So maybe it was taped to a page. It didn't look like there was anything else, but he said objects in 3.5.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait till somebody finds it.
So like a real time now.
I recorded it already.
So I keep thinking that's you when I hear the talking now. I'm tired.
Okay, wait.
I did use a lot of the questions I did.
Was that you?
Go
Oh,
back a
you just
little.
said okay, wait. Oh. What?
Okay,
What?
so he says you need to rewind it about 5 seconds. So he says that's one of the questions I asked him in the Q&A, and I said the Q&A was done now. Like the Q&A was done in the last 3 days, guys.
There's toenails inside by John Collins. I must be tired. You guys are crazy. All right. And whoever finds the owl jar, you think the toenails will be on eBay? Forest Fence toenails, everybody who wants to buy it. People, it really is. So
now you have recently done a Q&A with him, correct? So like a real time now.
I recorded it already.
Okay.
I did use a lot of the questions. I think I used one of yours, K-Pro, and I think I mentioned you, Mike, and I think I said we're not talking about tax stuff. So,
okay. Well, yeah, I sent him a message on Instagram with just a couple questions that I thought were important, and one of them, because of how we know the Forest Fence treasure ended, I was like, "Tell John to talk about taxes when you find one of his boxes. Is it a gift? Is he gifting it? Like what?" And I guess maybe that wasn't answered, but that was one of the questions I said people are wondering. So,
well, and I think it would be good to know because Jack didn't know that answer, so left it for 6 months, and the searcher died in the meantime. I don't care which way it is. My assumption by that answer, and we're going to see once it comes out, I haven't heard it, is he's not going to answer that. Maybe it's the incentive, and that's why. Or secondly, maybe he's not covering it and doesn't want to, but I just think he should clarify so then people don't get false expectations and we have another Jack situation and searchers dying when it's already been found.
It could be part of the incentive. That's true. That's like an honest concern for some people.
Yeah, I think like the tax stuff is like, I don't know, talk to a lawyer.
Along with that, this is going to be an ongoing podcast. It's not like they're all recorded and you're just waiting to put them out. Like when a box is found, I would hope you would have them on to say,
I hope so.
Are you happy with how it was found? And here's the solution and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say also the first 2 I had done a while ago. So if you listen to those, I did have them done a while ago, and like I was kind of like going back and forth with John and being like, I don't want to like step on your toes because they were done like way before the treasure hunt even was announced.
And that's what I thought you were saying is these are all older, but
they're a little older, but like they're still relevant. So
good. Yeah, no, they're so good. Okay, wait. One little. Okay, 2 things. The one thing I do think is interesting is I thought this Q&A was going to be like a one-off Q&A. It sounds like he's going to get interviews into the future. So as things change after the first box is found, etc. Samantha says you can only gift $100,000 if I remember right, so he can't. No, there's a lifetime gift. That is not correct. He would be able to gift any of these under the lifetime gift exemption. Now, would he want to use that whole thing for his lifetime gift extension? We don't know, but there's actually a yearly. The last time I looked was about 8 or 9 years ago, and that was $11,000 a year. I've heard it went up with Trump, down with Biden, and now it's back up. I've heard the lifetime tax for Trump, it went up, and then Biden, it went back down. So I believe it's around 5 million, but I don't know. Okay. 11 million. Okay.
The lifetime thing. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure John would have thought of that. And so they don't have to move to Puerto Rico, anybody, not in our opinion, but we're not lawyers. Just play one on YouTube.
No, but I would say you need to say when you found it because someone did pass away after Jack found it, but before he, I won't even say no to both Forrest and Jack knew it was found and someone died. So
that's not Forrest too, in my opinion, but yes. Okay. And 3D Bronze, I just got your joke. They were on Discord and on HBO. That was the name of their horses. A little slow, but I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sentence just goes.
It is a lot.
These aren't 1 minute clips. These are substantial. I think they're fabulous. So I don't care when they were filmed.
Can you say when the Q&A with John's coming out? Is that the next podcast? Or will that
be the next podcast? Yeah. Okay. And I will say
the next podcast is the Q&A with JCB. So that'll be awesome.
And he says right now in the next 2 weeks. So in the next 2 weeks, we haven't even gone over. We've still just given homework on 3 and 3.5. We have a lot to do there. Plus the other one on the lottery one that has a lot of good stuff drops. So between those three, I mean, we're behind on covering these as well. You were like, what are we going to do next week for a show? I'm like, we have so much to cover. That's why we had to cover this tonight.
Well, the only thing I don't like, I will give one criticism about the American Treasure podcast. He says he needs a set schedule, even if it's once a month. Tell us it's the 5th of every month. It's every 2 weeks on Thursday. It's new podcasts always come out on Monday, whatever Monday that might be. But we don't know. He just drops them whenever he wants to drop them. But so I think
where's the sound clip that says you? He drops it when he wants to. Kind of like I thought I was going to cook dinner tonight when I wanted to. Didn't work out that way, honey.
Probably be that if you listen to my last 3.5, which I guess I named it 3.5 because it was kind of a offshoot of the 3.
Yeah, right.
But in my podcast, I say the next 2 will be a little different. So I think from the next one, which will be the Q&A, I believe I'm pretty much going to put it out as it is, like straight, the kind of unedited. I mean, I'll edit a little bit because we talk about, how the kid's doing and that sort of stuff, but for the most part it'll be pretty much unedited. That's why I said the next 2 will be a little bit offshoot from my usual typical very
now Mike, hold on a second,
because I'm an editor at home.
So he says he's putting one more out, and we might need to rewind this 10 seconds. He says he's going to put the Q&A out and then take a break, but here he says he's going to put 2 more out and they're going to be a little different. I heard 2. I heard 2, Mike.
A little bit offshoot from
go back
from my usual tip be the Q&A. I believe I'm pretty much going to put it out as it is, like straight, the kind of unedited. I mean, I'll edit a little bit because we talk about, how the kid's doing and, that sort of stuff. But for the most part, it'll be pretty much unedited. That's why I said the next 2 will be, a little bit offshoot from.
So does that mean he's going to break them up into 2?
That's what I'm wondering. Is he doing 2 episodes of one Q&A because the Q&A was long enough?
Didn't ask him how long. So if it's like 2 hours, or even if it's an hour and a half, he might split it up.
So good. We love you, Dave.
Sounds like he asked him a lot of questions then. So.
I know.
I don't know the answer to that, Samantha. Can you only do one lifetime gift to one person? I don't know.
Yeah, like it's so if I can do to one person or to 20 people a total of, I don't know, it's 10, 11.
Oh, I see. So your total is 13 million, people are saying, and you divide it up however you want. But the total you can do is 13 million in your life. You can do a 13 million to one person or just split it up over 20 years or whatever.
Right, and the only exception to that, and I only know this because of situation in my life, you can give up to, this was years ago, but it was up to $11,000 a year without it being a part of that gift exchange. So there was a couple times in a family member's life that they gave my kids a little bit of money because of that. But okay, let's go on.
You. All right. Cooley says it's up to 19K.
Okay.
All right. And if it's crypto, I have no idea what that means. All right. Here we
go. From my usual typical, very edited, because I'm an editor at heart. So that's
when you were talking with him, he would say, "Hey, come look at this." And I think he showed you the all pickle jar. And I hear a so were you taking, do you have pictures too?
On your cell phone?
I mean, I was on my on the Zoom, I think. I was on the computer. I don't remember where I did it, but it was on the Zoom. Yeah, I do have pictures. Maybe I'll put them up. Maybe, but I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if I have the pickle jar, but I don't know if I think you'd probably be a little disappointed in the pictures. But
okay, stop it right here.
I do have something.
So he's got some pictures captured from the Zoom they did.
Okay, when he said, this is where I think D Money has no idea how important what he has, what John has, all of that is. When he says, I have some pictures, but I don't know if you'll probably be disappointed in him. No, the opposite. We will be excited. They will be awesome. I would love it. I think we would all love it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to see that gaming table too.
I got to go look.
There is a Discord channel you have if you wanted to put them up on our Discord. Right? You have an open invitation. Am I right?
I got to go look.
Is Spotify the place where you would like people to go listen, or is there other places?
Spotify, and I put them out in Apple Podcasts. Okay. Those are the 2 places that I have them.
So I will have the links in the description down below. So anybody, please go listen to the American Treasure podcast. It's pretty awesome stuff. Whether you're into there's treasure inside, or you're thinking
Okay,
about
stop it
getting
for a
into
second,
it.
Mike.
It's a little insight to the creator. So it's
I'm doing a shout out to Hooli. So if Jens's picture that went out had a picture of the Pelican box, do we think we have a picture of the Pelican box that the treasures are put in? That would be gold, kind of. Not
he's
gold.
seen it. Yeah, we should have asked him if he's seen one. I mean, or does
Darn
he know what
it.
they're in? Maybe we could have asked him. All right, this is the link to that original video on our channel that has the links to his podcast, also his other podcasts. If you want to
Hey,
check.
Mike, bring up Ken Chase's question.
Yeah. Well, Ken Chase, there's going to be all in this little Netflix documentary called Greed and Gold. But go ahead, K-Pro. Tell them what that means.
Well, so there is what Forrest said during the chase is he put an autobiography and put it in tiny, tiny writing, and he put something special for the finder. Add on to that, he told his confidant, which is the equivalent of D-Money here, Dale, the way that you know the finder is legitimate is if they read you a second poem that I wrote. I wrote a separate poem. Wouldn't tell them what it was. Many thought their second poem was in the olive jar. It ended up being in the olive jar. And because John said so, even though the family, they probably just didn't know, they weren't really in the chase. So it really solidifies what Forrest said was correct, what Dale said was correct. And John went so far as to say, not only is there a second jar, he was asked by D-Money, what is the second poem for? Like for a second treasure hunt, an extra prize, what is it? And he said, that's for the finder, I'm not saying, which turned into a little bit of excitement for those of us that have been in the hunt for so many years, because it's going to resolve a lot of controversy or speculation or conspiracy. Plus, there's something, why wouldn't John say why he, what is the poem for? It right. Obviously is something if he won't say. So that's the synopsis of why it's so exciting for I think Netflix is going to represent that there was 400,000 searchers. 400,000 people have this question if you were a part of the Forrest Fenn hunt.
So that's Forrest going through the treasure once it was retrieved. That is the olive jar that was never opened. So it was sold to John unopened, and he put it in his treasure hunt. So somebody's going to be the third person to ever open it after Forrest Fenn and John Collins Black once they find that box. But that's why it's important to a lot of Forrest.
Okay, so I think Grand Canyon is trying to say that why are we trusting D-Money? I've seen a couple of these. John would have come out and said, if this was made up clips and things is what I think he's trying to say, I would assume John would correct the record. Now, he didn't correct the record with the map, so maybe not, but I'm assuming John trusts him because John's the one that asked him to do, just like Forrest trusted Dale, and I can't recall Dale having any trust issues. A lot of people questioned him, and he got his vindication because what he said was exactly right.
We hope, Ken, that it will be for a closure of some kind for the thrill of the chase. That's right, because we don't know what's in it. We don't know. John said there's objects in it. He said there's something in it that surprised him. He said there's a poem in it, or as John says, poem. But I would say if you're not a Forrest Fenn searcher, you had nothing to do with the thrill of the chase, and you find the Forrest Fenn box, I would sell the olive jar because now I think the value just shot up. I think after the auction it went for 40 grand, I think.
Okay, wait, let's not get carried away. You just call us and we will be
up me and K-Pro will buy it from you for sure. So if you find it and you have that olive jar, talk to it. It works out.
I can tell you, Ken looks like the older brother of Parker Schnabel from Gold Rush. Doesn't
Parker
he?
Schnabley. Yeah. That's funny. Kind of.
I think he looks like him.
All right.
Okay. And that's a compliment. That's really like the best gold miner in the world.
Thanks.
So if you were to, I have a whole list of questions. So
hit me with them, K-Pro.
Now you're not John, we know
not
this.
John.
Yeah.
But since you know John and you've spent time, through this podcast and friends and things, if you decided to search, how would you be picking apart these chapters to know what is a clue, what's not a clue, what kind of how would you solve things?
You have read the book, correct? I'm assuming you've read the book.
I have not read the book.
He has not read the book. What the heck of his friend's book of a treasure hunt? All right. What?
I have not
read
a
copy of the book.
I do not have a copy of the book.
Wow.
John keeps telling me he's going to give me a copy of the book, and he has not done that yet. I think we talk about it in the next episode.
That's
You'll
great.
hear me
That's
complain
hilarious.
about it. But yeah, I mean, when he came to New York for the Good Morning America, he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I have a book. My publicist will get you one."
Oh, what?
And then we never saw her again. And then I was just like, "Oh, John." And then at some point in my interviews, he tells me that I have to buy a book. And then
Keep things on the up and up.
and then I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah, you got to buy a book." And then he was like, "Oh, well, maybe when your kid, because my kid is like a year and a half old, and
Okay.
he's like, maybe when your kid's like 5, I'll give her one." And I was like,
Okay, stop for a second. So I'm starting to think when John says don't take your kids' boots on the ground, that it's a clue of some sort, because why would he tell him when his kid turns 5 that he'll give him a book, but you're not supposed to take kids on this treasure hunt?
He's really giving Dave the book. I think it's a joke.
I think it's weird that we're putting kids back behind their texting machines. I think there's something to that statement.
D-Money will get a 24th edition. Can we do a GoFundMe to get D-Money a copy of There's Treasure Inside? Actually, can somebody give him a copy? Will somebody donate a copy and mail it to him? I mean, the guy who's doing these podcasts, and I even say it here in a minute, I'm like, get the book. You're going to have new questions for him when you read the book. So, yeah, if somebody out there actually, I'm serious, if somebody wants to order a book off Amazon and send it to him, reach out to me because I'll get his address where you can send it to or whatever. All right. It's just crazy to me that he doesn't have it. That's funny.
"Yeah."
Because you will have
Hopefully
a ton
they'll
of
all be
questions
found by then.
once
But
you
I
read the book. Yeah.
but I do have like he sent me stuff. So like he sent me a lot of like the digital stuff. So like for instance, the Appalachian Trail. It is the closest one to me. I think. I don't know if it's
They
an
say
Appalachian.
Vermont. I don't know if
Flip
that's
up.
I don't know either, but I've read that one, and I at some point I'll probably try to go look for it. But as far as picking it apart,
That's a good point, MM Treasure. He's saying kids get easier at 5. You'll never have time until he's 5 to even read the book. So that's funny. All right. Yeah, Tony says they sent us 2 of them for the conference, but he can't send one to his good friend. That is kind of, I don't know.
Well, but they did ask, like, it's going to be donated, correct? And it's like, yeah, it's going to be donated. So they did clarify that they weren't giving it to us. It was something that was not that I get your point. I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying a little bit that it, but he gave some guy when he was sitting in his Porsche on the corner.
That's
Just
fake.
kidding.
All the TikTok.
Just kidding.
I have no idea. Like I am.
You don't have the book. You don't have the book.
I don't have the book. But I look online and I look at all the like people talking about it. I'm like, oh, that's really good. Like these guys, you guys are smart. So
collectively as a group, but no one agrees. Like as you probably know, I'm working on Past and Future. We do a poll every few days or every week, and the only thing we can agree on is we don't agree.
Right. That's the way it works.
So let me just go back real quick because this is what occurred to me. So when he first said, "Hey, I'm going to do a treasure hunt," were you like, "So when are we going to plan it?" Like, did you ever been like, "I want to do it with you," or did he ever offer to say, "Hey, do it with me"? Because
he was never like do it with me. I was always like, I'll be along for the ride, and I will. I always wanted to be his. The one thing that I found interesting, and I started doing the research. Right, I started looking at the Forest Fence stuff. I started looking at all these other treasures. And like a lot of this is what I gather, and I still don't know everything, but from what I gather is like a lot of like how these treasures work is that someone will come up with a treasure, and then they'll bounce it off somebody to like figure out if it's too hard or too easy, right?
Right. I thought that would be you. Yeah. Right.
And I thought, that's why I always was like, John, if you need anybody to help you, I'm here as a bouncing board. But I'm pretty sure that he just kind of did it all on his own. Like
that's what he said.
That's kind of what John is. He's kind of just like, I do things on my own, and that's how I get to where I am. And if I fail or if I succeed, it's on me, So that's kind of the way John is. Take it or leave it. That's kind of the way he is. So in turn, to answer your question, my whole thing was like, I will be here to help you, just to listen, let you talk it out, to figure out how you're going to do it. Because I really do think, like, if you will one day, but if you go listen back to all that early stuff, like, you could tell you could tell how advanced he's gotten by the time he's got it out. Like he has talking points down. He's got like, and I do think a lot of that was him just talking it out with me, like really like figuring out like what he wants to say, you know.
And he can't even send you a book.
It just hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet. That's
no.
right.
I'm sorry you guys are disappointed in that, but I'll get it sooner or later. I focus on the treasure hunt podcast, which is more, it's a little different than the actual treasure. So,
right. But it would be interesting to get your take on the book because you had these conversations with him when he was still planning the book and thinking about it. So,
like I said, I read the Appalachian Trail, so I got that idea. So
okay.
Well, and there are some differences too of what he says now than what he said. Like the one thing that comes to mind in your podcast, he said, no private property. You don't have to go through private property, nothing private property. But in his interviews now, he says, you may have to use a private property easement to get to. And I'm like, ooh, that's a difference. Okay. So some things evolved, it sounds like. So, which is great.
Again, I would guess that a lot of the, talks we had, we definitely had talks before he buried them or hid them, not buried them, but hid them. So a lot of like his thoughts and processes were probably different than when he actually got, boots on the ground and figured it out. So, I mean, for some of the things that I definitely, what I learned was like, oh, I need to be a little bit more diligent. And like, when I pick the audio bites that I use, I mean, to make sure that people understand when they were recorded. Because that makes a difference. Like that's honestly, there's a lot of people who message me, and that's always the question. First is, when was this recorded? When was that recorded? Right. And I'm always, again, I'm not John, and I'm more lazy, so I'm like, oh, I gotta go look. I gotta go figure that out, and I will eventually, and I will, it'll all wash out.
Yeah, because with the episode 3, John says, like, I think he said he's already hidden the Forrest Fenn box, and he was getting to the last 2, and it was like, oh, so this was one. So I think that's the reason timing, not that you can kind of figure anything out from it, but we want to know everything, even if we don't need to know.
I know, and it's true. And like thinking back on it, there was definitely like a period where John went missing for like a week, and we were like, where's John? Where's John? Should we have gotten a tracker on him?
Yeah, he went. He was off the grid for a week.
He was off the grid for however long it was. And
what state was he in when that happened?
That was I can't remember. It was definitely in the warmer years. So it was probably like last summer or the summer before.
When he says warmer years, I thought he meant summertime. Oh yeah, warm months, like summertime, summer months. Okay, that's like warmer years,
or warmer time of year, or
warmer time of year, like in the summer. Yeah, okay, makes sense. I got you. How many hours of recordings would you say you have total? Not that you're going to use them all, but
I mean, we started recording in 2022-ish, 2021-ish, and then we would do one. It would go, ebb and flow kind of. So it would be like we'd get really into it, and we would record every month for 6 months, and then we'd take a couple months off, and then we would do it again for a couple of months, once a month. So I would say probably anywhere between like 40 hours, somewhere in there.
Wow,
30 to 40 hours, something in there. So like we probably done like 31-hour interviews.
Some of them were in person, but some of them were over Zoom. Is that what you said?
Everyone was over Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're in New York, he's in California. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, okay. So some of the tougher topics.
Okay.
There may have been a typo or two in the book.
Yeah.
We have now different versions of different books. The hard copies still have some errors. Do you know, you're not John, but have you asked him, or do you know if he's going to be putting out, we're going to get together as a whole group and go through every single page painstakingly. But I was thinking if John had an intent of putting an errata list out, we wouldn't do that. And do you know anything about that?
I talked to him about it in the question and answer.
Oh, nice.
Oh, good.
So you'll hear an answer from that. I don't know if you'll.
So we were planning, if you're up on Discord, I was planning to get a Zoom together this weekend and have all of us go through our different versions of books and come up with a very significant and thorough list. We are going to wait on that due to this answer of he's going to say, I don't know if you'll like the answer perfectly, but the answer, I at least asked him and he answered. So we'll be able to at least, I don't want to waste the time because it's going to take a few hours to do, where we can be working on something else if he's resolving the issue, which I hope is what he does.
Okay.
He'll be fully satisfied, but we did talk about it, and he, I think he lands on some kind of place where you'll have an answer to some degree, I think.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
Because it does matter. I mean, some of those were pretty, it's like, wait a minute, is this a clue or is this unintentional? It's hard.
Yeah. I know it is hard. It
yeah.
is hard. Yeah. And I think the answer in the next episode will help. It'll help.
Okay, maybe we won't schedule 20 of us getting together and doing a 5-hour session.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this Q&A, so let's hope he gets it out sooner.
I know, even if it's just the first half.
Yeah, right.
Until your podcast comes out. Okay. Now, in your first 2 episodes, you had Dan Barbarisi, you had Tammy, you had Sasha. Did you get to know them through, like, once you got approached to the podcast, you reach out to them? Did you know them beforehand? I mean, those are 3 very different people.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how that, and are we going to see more of them, or is it going to transition more to John?
Or new people, new searchers.
Probably new searchers. Probably new searchers. Like in the episode 3, I got the guy who won the candy one.
Yes.
Candyman. Yep.
What was his name? Blanking on it right now. Doesn't matter. But so I try to get, with every new one that I put in there, I'll try to get someone associated with that. I did talk to the Candyman a couple times, but that was a total disaster. Like,
oh, really?
I called him and he had no service, and he was like, "I'll call you back," and he called me back and he still had no service. And then that was the last I talked to him. We talked for like 20 seconds each time, and I was like, "Okay, I'm not using him." Okay,
he must have been in the factory, huh?
Yeah, and a lot of the Sasha and Dan, those were. Like, that was very early on. I recorded those. They had no idea what I was talking about. Like, I recorded them probably.
Wait, so that means when he recorded Sasha, she didn't know about this upcoming treasure hunt. They didn't know JCB was going to do a hunt. Is that what he just said?
That's what he just said. And so, like, when she talked about anyone who does something like this is a narcissist, and some of the things she said,
she's just talking about Forrest.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought she was okay. Yeah,
he's talking to people about treasure hunts, not just specifically JCB. He's getting info about, he's getting people's opinions of other treasure hunts. So that is interesting. Okay.
2022, and they were kind enough to talk to me, and I was just kind of like putting the idea.
2022. So he talked to them 2 or 3 years ago. That's what he just said. Wow. It just seems like it's recent, but it's not. It's really recorded a long time ago. So they've really been planning this for a while now. So interesting. That changes how I listen to the podcast, that he's put this much work into it and this much. I don't know. It just seems like it changed.
Together at that point to like try. Like, my idea was, I'm going to try to talk to as many people who will talk to me about this subject and try to figure out like where I want to go with it. So Dan was great because like he wrote the book on it, so he knew a lot. And then Sasha brought kind of the element of like, heart and soul to it that was really wild. And she's great. I mean, she's a character. I really like Sasha. I don't know what the community thinks of Sasha, but she was a blast.
Well, you definitely hit some of the more delicate issues from the Forrest Fenn hunt,
and she was very open to talk about all of it. So, and I didn't know a lot of it because I was never in that community. So I got a inside peek, and there's a lot more with Sasha that I did not put out. So
okay,
you'll hear those too.
Well, and so do you think that is going to come up? Because I'm sure that John, especially with how big this has gotten, he's going to have some of the dilemmas and circumstances, not exact same ones, but he's going to have something happen. Will you cover things like that when it comes to the JCB?
I mean, the thing that the one thing that I was very interested in very early on, and it shows in episode 1, was like the life and death stakes of the entire thing. And like I talked to John about that quite a bit early on, because I was like, this is gonna happen and it's gonna be scary. Are you gonna deal with it? And like,
right,
we definitely talked about it, and eventually maybe when I put it out you'll hear it, but like he was very set on trying to learn the lessons of Forrest and trying to move past it, and whether he thinks he's figured it all out or if he thinks things will eventually turn bad, that I don't know. But
okay, so again, guys, here is a link to the original video. In the description of that video that's in the chat, you can get the link to the American Treasure podcast. So you can listen to these podcasts. You guys should go subscribe, so I think you're alerted when the new one comes out. And then also he posts on his Instagram, the American Treasure podcast on Instagram, when the new one is out as well. So there's the link in the chat. Go check it out after this show is over, of course. Anything, K-Pro?
No.
I will say that I approached a couple different like podcast companies to see if they wanted to take it on, and one of them was like, "There's too much risk."
Really?
Yeah, and we don't want anything to do with
just for the podcast, really.
For the podcast, and being like, well, if someone dies looking for this thing, we don't want to be associated with that.
I see.
So it was very interesting to hear that. And in the end, I just kind of put it out myself. So here we are.
You just made me think that this is an ongoing podcast. I mean, the American Treasure podcast is it's really like a reality show that's happening right now as you talk to John more and more as things develop and things happen. It's really a interesting concept.
It is. And that was kind of the whole like appeal of it at the beginning, where I was like, oh, I could see where this, I'll take this this episode and this episode where we kind of do some stuff, and then as it unfolds, we can kind of do like real-time stuff, and I'll be here to chat with you to like let people know how you're feeling. And like early on, it's very interesting because early on, John was very in the mindset that I am going to put this out and then I'm going to be gone. I don't want anything to do with it. Like it's not mine anymore when it's out. He changed his mind on that. So that was a big an eye-opening thing for me, because I thought he was going to be.
Did he ever say why he changed his mind? Will that be in the podcast?
I think he wanted to be as transparent, and I think he also wanted to be the promoter of it, so that they could get to as many people as possible, whether that's to sell his books or actually I don't know, but
the thrill of the chase.
The thrill of the chase, yeah. So I mean, like that was, I think, his impotence to change his mind. But I would say for 2 years he was like, I'm once I put this out, I'm done with it, and I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. And I mean, I always was like, that's such bullshit.
Yeah, right.
I know that's gonna change. So and it did. So
that's funny.
Okay.
There's no way you can put it out and then walk away from it and never come. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I don't think he.
Well, that's the funny part about. I know he was not critical in a horrible way, but he was pretty critical of Forrest. That's not what I need this for. I'm putting it out and I'm disappearing, and then he changes his mind. And so I think we could give or understand Forrest a little bit more, especially he can, because he's gone back on. Yeah, Forrest felt the same way as you, and Forrest did it. And I don't know if he's going to go at the same level. Or not, but I do think it's interesting that at launch he changed his mind. I mean, like even before the launch, it was the pickle jar thing that got him, like he was getting attention, and that's what he seemed to not understand he needs, and now he's enjoying it.
So Alan asks, you think any of John's friends or family would have an advantage without even knowing, similar to Forrest Fenn's hunt in his favorite fishing spot? I mean, it's a good question. I would hope JCB learned from that. Looks like he says he learned from other things to pick spots nobody would have an advantage to find, but we don't know. What do you think, K-Pro?
I'm going to say no until we know something different. Like a question I would have loved to ask, and I didn't want to put him on the spot is, hey, is John a rock climber? He may know whether Jock's or a skier or whatever. Like
does he have a favorite vacation spot? Yeah.
Right. You would think that people in his life and circumstance know these sorts of things about him that may give a slight advantage. Hopefully it's not as bad of a train wreck as the Forrest Fenn hunt on how much it could give an advantage, but any little advantage is something, right? So I don't know.
We should ask Dave this too. Did JCB ask you to cut anything out of the podcast? He said it, and then maybe later he thought, oh yeah, take that out.
So during the 3.5, I think it was a 3.5, maybe it was 3. John, now this is back in 2021, 22. John said, I've recorded everything from you and I've never said, oh no, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. But again, he has 3 more years. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He's got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah. And we're seeing him in interviews. He interviewed with us. He did communicate with Copper Dan. He says he's not going to ever communicate with searchers. There has been some. And so I know when he said, I don't want to be like Forrest, well, there's some fun to be had with the joy that's happening from all this.
Yeah. I did talk to him about like what he's planning and doing and going forward for the next episode, for episode 4. So you'll hear some ideas. I think he hasn't fleshed anything out, but some ideas of what he feels like he's open to doing stuff. So that's good.
That's nice. Yeah. Great. He talked about collaborations with Books A Million. I think that was in his newsletter. So it looks like he's got some things that's outstanding. Now he is in a doc. We know he filmed with Jens. Are you in Jens's doc?
I am not in Jens's doc, but I know Jens. I talked to Jens. I can't really say too much more about that right now.
Yeah.
But I know Jens, and he shot.
So for me, when he says I can't say more about that right now, that means there's a plan for it to come out, in my opinion. When he says right now, meaning when it's released, maybe I can talk about it then. I hope.
But that's been years and years. And
I know. I know. What is taking so long? But when he says I can't talk about it right now, I'm hoping that means at a later date he can, and there is some kind of
plan.
But
he might just not realize that Jens has done this for years and years, and he's saying, I don't know. It doesn't matter enough. We just wanted to see if he was in it, and he wasn't, and then it got a little
But that he knows Jens is interesting. I mean, I didn't see that coming. Did he know?
Well, I thought it was interesting that Jens wanted to Jens specifically made sure his name was credited for creating that original video. But it sounds like there was both an editor and a colorist, which the colorist was Dave, and they didn't get credit, which I know those things are important in that industry. It's interesting that maybe Jens is a little bit more business-like, and then Dave is just the guy that doesn't have a budget, so he doesn't even. You would think he would at least get his name as credit, but
he's about to talk about that right here.
Yeah,
that teaser that went out. I think that right. There's a teaser
of the treasure.
The treasure, that first kind of, and I colored it. I made it look the way it looked.
Oh, nice.
And then my friend edited it, so. We had that little trio going for a little while. So I was talking to Jens for a while, but I haven't talked to him in a couple of months.
So that means Jens filmed it, but then gave it to JCB, and JCB gave it to his friend here, and they edited it and they took care of it. Right? It's not Jens that edited and did all that stuff. He turned it over to these guys to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like he was the cameraman, which, I mean, he's aspiring to be a documentarian, but right now he's a fabulous cameraman. He was the cameraman. Then it went to Dave and his editing buddy, and they made it look nice. They did all the, the editing and things to make the end product look like what it does. And I
just thought it was Jens, but there's other people. So
I thought it was only Jens too, because that's all the credits show. So JCB, you got to give Dave some love, because I mean, if he did the work too, it doesn't sound like he's
we'll see. Who knows what the plans are for the future.
I'm not sure what he's up to right now.
I just hope he puts something out. I mean, we know he has a whole bunch of stuff, whether Forrest Fenn or JCB. We just hope he puts something.
Every time I talk about it, he's talking about it. So I don't know.
We haven't talked to him, or I haven't talked to him in a while, but he filmed actually opening the olive jar. I mean, or not him opening, John opening it. And so he has some really good stuff. So we're excited when he gets it out. That's awesome. So Mike, any other questions? Because we said 20 minutes and we've already got 30.
I know you're busy. Two things. One, there was an interview that John did where at the very end, out of nowhere, he goes, yeah, somebody's thinking of doing a reality show about all this. Yeah. And that was it. The interview ended. Do you know anything about a possible reality show?
I do. But he said that?
He did. Yeah. In a public interview, because that's how I know about it. He said it. But he said there's a producer and he doesn't really know where it's at. But I was just like, how great would that be to have a reality show, based around this?
It would be great. I know about it. And I don't know where it is right now.
Okay.
But I work in television myself. That's what I do. I'm a colorist, kind of like an editor. But I will say that the television industry is in a bit of a mess right now. So the industry is kind of on its knees right now. So getting a show sold is very difficult. So that's
okay.
Yeah, like the Netflix doc, it had 2 different executive producers. We're hearing it gets announced next week, so it's huge. Do you know if John is in? I have not heard one way or another.
I don't know much about that Netflix. I hear people talking about it. I don't know much about it. I don't really I haven't followed it, but I've heard murmuring pretty much on the Discord. So what you know is what I know. So
okay. Any indication when the next podcast will be out?
I mean, I've been on a kind of 2 every other week kind of thing. Yeah. So, and then I've been really slammed with work, and the baby is she's always a handful, but I do have it recorded, and I just have to get it on paper, as it were. And so probably in the next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to assess where I'm at and kind of see where that goes. And I might take maybe a month off because I've been on a real kick of getting these out, which is it's fun, but we'll see where I'm at. I mean, I would love to keep them going, but raising a kid is hard, guys.
Yeah. Our kids are now teenagers. I can send my daughter to the store rather than having to bundle her up and take her to the store.
So babysit. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting, and I do have to say that's kind of a perfect time to take a little bit of a break, because that's the Q&A real time. You've kind of really showed us what you can do, which is, I mean, JCB weaving in other searchers and stories, and then we get a right now Q&A, and then a little bit of a break, so you can have that balance of life.
Right, and then I feel like things are going to go wild as soon as it gets warm out, and everyone's going to be out there. So
I'm counting down the days.
It's coming. Who's going to be the first one to find a box? I mean, that would be
exciting.
If you can have John and the winners on, that would be a huge show.
Yeah, I mean, I put it out on the Discord, and I said, if anybody finds it, you have an open invitation. I mean, we'll see. If we get another Jack who's kind of really aloof, and doesn't really want to be.
Right, that's true.
In one of my episodes, he talks about I put incentives in that if they find it, that they will come forward. But he's not going to dox anybody. He's not going to be this person found it, and so if someone finds it and tells him and says, "I don't want to be known," he will not say who that is. So.
Even under court order, because that's what Forrest said. But then Forrest passed, and the judge said, "You got to tell me."
You can't really, go against the courts, I guess. Well,
now, I do have one question, because I promised a bunch of searchers I would ask this, because this was their number one question. Have you asked John if the treasures are in a legal area? Like Yellowstone was not legal for Forrest to put it there. Did that come up in any of your questions? I'm hoping the next Q&A that comes out next week.
No, I can't remember if I talked to him about it in the Q&A. I've definitely talked to him about it in the past.
Okay.
And I know that he said, at least I have talked to lawyers about every spot. Okay. So, I mean, again, John and his due diligence is something to be, whatever the word is that I'm looking for. It's good. It's really good. Okay, so, good. I don't doubt that like he really like painstakingly thought through and talked to people who knew the rules and laws about everything. So I don't have the answer to that, but I do think that where they are, they're probably good. But who knows?
Okay, mute
I don't-
or
I'm-
stop it for a second. You need a T-shirt that says that.
That would be cool. Hashtag.
So there's two things I'm going to say to this. One good thing, maybe one not so good thing. He checked with the lawyers about the spots. I'm hoping that just means generally speaking, not, like I know Forrest lawyer knows it was at 9 Mile Hole, but I'm hoping, and it's under attorney-client privilege, but I'm hoping that doesn't mean other people know it. But when he said he painstakingly made sure, kind of those details were covered, look at the book.
What do you mean?
The book has 40 typos in it.
Oh,
you
right.
use that same due diligence skill, and so I don't mean it to be snarky.
That's true.
And checking with a lawyer is different than looking up the regs yourself. So I'm hoping that means, but it sounds like he has lawyers involved, so that's good, I guess. Yeah.
All right, almost done. I'm not John.
I'm not John.
Did you reach out to Jack Stoof to try and get him to
I did.
talk on the podcast?
I did. Early on, John's like had some coordination with him.
He did the Medium article, so
yeah, and and John, I was like, oh, can I get his email? I'd love to talk to him, and I've emailed him many times, and I have not gotten an answer.
Come on, Jack.
I know.
Okay,
I'm hoping that
you're the one who brought this one up. That's not what John said. John said he never had communication with John.
I would have to re-listen to our interview we did with him because I asked that question to John, and I thought he said maybe limited or not really. I'd have to listen to the wording of what he had.
I thought he said he was in communication with the attorney and never got an answer back. So he didn't even get into negotiations. And again, this might be the little detail that D-Money doesn't remember exactly, but we, of course, glom onto. But yeah.
And that's true, Alan. I think Forrest Fenn thought he thought of everything, but I think now we realize maybe he didn't. But that's just, everybody's human. I mean, nobody's perfect. So attention to detail, that's it. Attention to detail is huge in treasure hunts. I mean, yeah, and we'll see how things play out. That he tried to email Jack to, and my first thought, what I was thinking when he said that was, Jack should absolutely go on a show because Dave's like a third person. He wasn't involved in the thrill of the chase. It would just be a platform to Jack to talk about his experience. And I thought, but Jack doesn't need him. Jack can do a Medium article. Jack can talk about his experiences anywhere he wants.
Yeah, but you have a searcher right now trying to figure out how to get him served under a lawsuit in Santa Fe.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Dave Woodard is still trying to serve both Shiloh, and the judge just told him when he started trying to testify, and he's like, no, step one is service. It's been years. I'm going to dismiss your case if you're not smart enough to figure out step one. And we get it. No attorney will take this because of the insanity of it, but you have to do what's called serve. He's trying to serve. He's trying to
suck sometimes.
Yeah, people suck.
All right. So he tried to talk to Jack. That's cool.
He emails me and says, hey, I'd love to come on. And, at that point, the one thing about that interview is I'd feel bad doing it myself because I feel like I would not be the best person because I'm not as knowledgeable in it, but I would not hold back on asking him the questions that I have. So
if you had K-Pro on as well, we could ask some questions and we do it on your podcast.
If you don't reach out, Jack, you're invited anytime. And I would, the one thing that I like to do is keep my interviews very, very even, very easy. I'm not looking.
Actually, I really like this comment from Keebs3. He says, I feel the lack of care from him regarding the typos makes me feel like there aren't any clues in the details around spelling or specific words. The clues are more concept, like in Ready Player One. I actually like that idea. I mean, if spelling was important, we probably wouldn't have these spelling errors, so they may not be part of clues, right?
Yeah, it's like page 90. Page 90 probably just should have been in there. It's just a typo. Yeah, probably.
But that one's not a typo, though. Because he didn't correct it.
Sorry, I was dripping that in sarcastic font. That's exactly.
I thought you meant literal, but yeah, that's a good point. Keebs3. That's actually a really good point. I guess we'll know. It's gonna be.
Well, and he did say on his website. To be fair, his website does say like any proper or no names are misspelled on purpose. Like those aren't a clue. So I get that in concept, but John's also the guy that says, pay attention to detail.
Right.
So,
But he didn't mean spelling. He meant other details, apparently.
well, but 1971 versus 1972.
That's a detail. I know.
So the year is off. So those numbers don't matter. But the number, I think it's obvious that page 90 is a hint of some sort.
Yeah.
90 does matter. That one's
90-degree turn, obviously.
Going to hard hit anybody with anything.
Right.
So if you want to come on and just chat, you're more than welcome. I may ask K-Pro and Mike some questions to ask him, but that's it. That's it.
Because to hear his perspective on how all that went down with the thrill.
Well, then he came out of nowhere and put a Medium article out about John's hunt. That John said that was a total surprise. It's not like they were coordinating.
No.
And so he's coming. I think
he's not going to look for the Forrest Fenn box. So we got that going for us. So.
Yeah. I mean, he already found it once. So
yeah, that's right.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. He'll swap it out for the real pickle jar that he kept. Anyway. All right. Anything else, K-Pro?
No, that's it. Thank you for the extra time.
Yeah.
We took some extra time, so I know minutes matter with a little bunchkin.
Yeah.
So American Treasure Podcast on Spotify, on Apple Music.
Apple Podcasts.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The links will be down below. Go and listen to the ones that are out there. Go and subscribe. I'm assuming you can subscribe to it to be notified when a new one comes out. Yeah. And you're on Instagram, American Treasure Podcast on Instagram. You let everybody know when the new episode is out. And that's awesome, Dave.
And we're going to pick it apart. I gave everybody homework on our last show of the minute marks that were interest of me. Several of you have messaged me and said, "Ooh, you missed this minute mark," and we're going to discuss it on an upcoming show. I don't know when this is going to go out, so I won't say. I'll just say an upcoming show, and we're excited to pick every single word apart.
Sure. I will say I love. After I put out one of the episodes and go on to the Discord and see what everyone's saying. It's always a fun thing. I really am humbled by everyone talking about it, which is great. I love it. And even the haters. I love the haters. Bring them on. I love
there
Discord.
will be some.
Yeah, of course. So I encourage everyone to talk about it and get what you can from it, and hopefully you'll find one of these things.
Well, and we all interpret it differently. We had this big battle today, not battle, but argument, discussion of John said, I hid the Forrest Fenn box where I was searching for Forrest Fenn's. And people say, well, that doesn't mean the 4 search states. It could be Nebraska. It could be Florida. And I'm like, well, no, I'm pretty sure he would have searched for the Forrest Fenn box in one of the 4 states that Forrest issued a map of. And they're like, no, that's confirmation bias. I'm like, so we won't agree, but we will pick it apart. Yeah.
And I don't have an answer for that. I wish I did. But I mean, he was out there. I know he was out there looking for it. And, I've asked him and he said there was plenty of spots where I was looking where I was like, this would be a great spot to hide a treasure. So he had a lot in mind. So there's that.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. I'll come on again after, down the line. We'll
when we go and pick up Past and Future, we'll come on your show and talk all about
obviously.
it.
Obviously. For sure. Of course.
We're going to try. We're trying.
Obviously.
All right, everybody, go listen to the podcast, and we're all looking forward to the Q&A with John. That'll be huge when that comes out. So thanks again. We appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road.
Cool. Later, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, so there it is, everybody. How about a thumbs up for getting Dave on the show? And I think he dropped some hints there. He dropped a couple things that are very interesting. I mean, John really has had a plan. When 4 years ago, his buddy who's in TV, who does podcasts, he says, hey, you want to do a podcast about this treasure hunt I'm doing? And they did it. They're doing it. So
and so my overall takeaway, Dave seems very genuine to me, almost too genuine. I worry that he may not see what's a coming because it did get so ugly and terrible at the end with the Forrest Fenn hunt. But there's no such thing as being too nice. He just seems like a nice guy that's saying it like it is, doing his thing. So that's the good. I think it'll be interesting as he starts through this over the next few months, years, whatever it is, how much he learns and what he does differently as well. So that's And now Samantha says, but he didn't fix all the typos. Right. That's the $64,000 question. Right. Is John hasn't corrected all the typos. So does that mean the ones he didn't correct are clues, or they just haven't told them yet? I did not know in printing 3 of the printed book, it still says Santa Fe, Arizona.
It
In
still
the
says here in the
Kindle,
phone,
it
HQ.
says Santa Fe, New Mexico.
That's
So
the $640,000 question. All right. Monday we will do our normal show. Capro has a big PowerPoint, and Monday is going to be about Netflix because a lot of people don't know, like, what's Forrest Fenn, what's the thrill of the chase. So we're going to go over a little bit of history and give you what we know and what we believe Netflix is going to be, and then hopefully the next day, Tuesday, is the announcement from Netflix. Not going to be a trailer, but hopefully there's an announcement that it's coming and all that fun stuff.
yeah, so Tony's saying leave Dave alone. So Dave has requested the opposite. And so since Dave's an adult, I think it's okay. Dave has a designated spot on our Discord. I tried to say, hey, everybody, just limit to questions. Let's leave him alone. And he said, K-Pro, your heart's in the right spot, but no, I would like you to give me questions. I'd like you to give me feedback. I want you. And he actually goes back and forth with people on our Discord. So though probably, Tony, you're in the same spot as me, I was trying to help Dave and kind of limit. He wants the opposite. So I think until he tells us, leave them, like kind of like when Forrest told everyone to stop emailing. And then Forrest emailed me and said, why'd you stop emailing? And I said, you told everybody to. He's like, no, I didn't mean you, which is just funny. So okay, all right, get him. No, somewhere in between. Hopefully give him some love, guys, because if he does get all negative, he'd go away. So let's not have him go away, but let's somewhere in between. Let's give him good, constructive feedback. Let's give him additional questions that he just feels compelled to ask John and get more episodes out. And D-Money, we're so excited. Get that Q&A done. If you need me to come babysit so you get some extra time, I'm not sure when I'm in New York, but I'll try to get there.
That's what she said. Okay, everybody, I'm about to eat some awesome dinner that my awesome wife made because I asked her to, and then I'm going to get some sleep. And tomorrow is another day. I got to get caught up on some things around here, but I will also get the link up early so you guys know Monday, 6 p.m. We're going to talk about Netflix, which will be fun, and what we believe is going to be in it. I don't know if there's any surprises in your PowerPoint, Capro.
I have such a big surprise.
You do, for real? Oh,
Yes.
You never know what Capro's going to say that she's not supposed to. So thank you, Mike, and thanks for watching. And I know you're subscribed and you thumbs up, right?
Yeah, oh, Mad Mardigan. Let's get out of here, Mike. Don't
and what's
do it.
funny is you hear the voice. When you read it, you hear the drop. So, all right. No soundboard tonight. All right. Thank you, Dave Colona, from coming on American Treasure Podcast.
Yes, it was awesome. Thank you.
And when he does drop the interview with JCB, you know we're going to go live and talk about it. As we
know it.
So thanks, everybody. We hope you have a good weekend, and we will see you Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Say bye, Capro.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.